Boom. All right. We're working technology here. So thank you all for coming. So this is a member meeting and meetings being recorded. I believe that we have everybody that has attended because Craig, I was watching the people as they were logging on. So I think we have attendance covered. So
do we have a quorum of 20%, Mark? We would technically need 11 members, I think, or 12.
yeah, let me shift programs here. We have 15% by my count.
So the participants on the Zoom says 12.
Yeah, it says.
Yeah, the problem it's by household. So Sheila and Aaron, I think you count as one.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
It's one vote per house. Yeah. So maybe some people will join, but I don't know that we're voting on anything. So we'll deal with that as we come. So this might just be an informational meeting, which is perfectly fine too. If you hear some noise downstairs, it's because we're hosting a little family event, but I got the breakaway for this. So good to see you guys. So we're going to cover the upcoming pancake breakfast. We're going to talk about our call for board members. We're going to talk about the bylaw updates and what's going on the Lochleven updates. So update on the Chimneys condos project and the 4th of July issue. Might be a couple other things in there too. Talk about the association, where we are with this. And let me just say that we've come a long way in a very short amount of time. And I will just say to you all that 99.9% of that is because of Craig, because Craig has been leading this and driving this. And we never would have gotten where we were without Craig on the Chimneys condos project being shut down. So I personally want to thank Craig for how all of his work on getting this going. I mean, when you look at the website and when you look at the newsletter and when you look at the signs, Craig. So thank you very much. And, you know, somebody has to kind of take point on this. And I'll just say, thank you, Craig. And then, and at the end, we're going to go over some new business. If people have things they want to talk about. Excuse me. So annual pancake breakfast. It's the 23rd, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. The setup is going to start at 8 and the cleanup is going to go till noon. And so this is going to be on 99th Avenue, the corner of 99th and 5th. Some of you may know Jeff Jorgensen and his wife and his son, Bob. And so they have been gracious enough to host this. And so the goal here is we're going to get to know each other. You know, one of the main things of the Lochleven Community Association that we're trying to do is to build community. And so let's all get to know each other. Let's show up and let's not hang with our spouses. Let's mix and mingle and get to know people. And so looking forward to that. Good news for you and the guests. The LCA is going to provide all the grub, pancakes, muffins, coffee, and all the fixings. And thank you for everybody that's agreed to volunteer for that, because this is a total committee program here, and there's a lot of people that are helping, and so you'll get to meet them there too. If anybody wanted to do a little donation, I'm going to bring a hat or something or a sock. I don't know. We'll put something to put money in. So donations are appreciated, and we do need you to RSVP, and we need you to tell your neighbors. We want the RSVP so there's a head count, because we need to know how much pancake mix to buy and how much syrup and strawberries to buy. There's going to be a nice little buffet where the kids can kind of get involved. So, you know, one of the things that we're thinking about as we look at this Lochleven Community Association is we need to get the kids involved, because if we get the kids involved, we're going to meet more of the parents. So if we can make this fun for the kids, then we're going to get to meet more of our neighbors. And so hopefully we'll get a nice turnout. And my guess is that this isn't going to be the greatest turnout in the world for the first one, but maybe the second annual pancake breakfast is going to be bigger and better. So let's all bring our cameras and take some pictures and spread the word. Craig, who do we got coming from the city?
Well, we've got great response. Lynn Robinson, the mayor, Jeremy Barksdale, many of you met. We have at least 2 police motorcyclists that will be attending and be handing out buttons and labels for the kids. Brooke Broad from the plan department's gonna be setting up a little table about how to get involved in community planning. So we got some great involvement right there. So I think it's good there. I also want to say that we do have an argument going on. Jeff Jorgensen saying that he's going to pay for everything and the board's not going to pay for anything. So he says we're gonna have to twist arms on there, but he's been very generous in donating stuff. And we've also already had $40 donated from some community members. So this should be a lot of fun. And it is, like you said, Mark, I think it's get engaged, talk to other people. We're going to have a table set up for some of the archives and information, and we're going to maybe try to some other materials available because a lot of people don't know the history of Lochleven. And again, for some of you that are new, Lochleven was formed in 1907 and established almost 50 years before the city of Bellevue was established. So again, some great stuff. We are still looking for some folding tables and tents and some things of that nature and volunteers. So, and we have flyers. I know, Robin, you've offered to distribute some. Wayne Novick, I'm not sure if Wayne's on the call right now. I thought I saw his name.
Yep.
Yeah, Wayne is gonna canvas Lake Washington Boulevard. We got first covered. In my 6 hours back in town on Sunday, I'm gonna try to get 99th. And we still have some additional flyers. And I guess also just thanks to Steve McConnell. Steve, also he printed off the flyers for us. So thank you, Steve. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, Steve's not on the call yet. Maybe he's not going to make it, but Steve's been a big help for this too. Good. So save the date, April 23rd, 9 to 11 a.m. Go to bed hungry,
RSVP.
wake up hungry. Okay, so so Craig, Mike Hatmacher, Joyce Dolan, and I think that we are the incorporating board members. And we love being the incorporating board members. And we're also hoping to have some new board members to join the team and help lead things. So our goal is to increase generational, cultural, gender, and geographic diversity. So by geographic diversity, we want people from different parts of the Lochleven community. Pretty much we have, I guess the furthest south we go is, well, it's not so much the board as it is the members, but it's, what's his name? Sorry, Scott Lamke. So, we're trying, one of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to grow membership in general throughout the Lochleven community. And so, when I put the signs around this week, I put one down on Lake Washington Boulevard by the Boulevard apartments. And so we do want to build, diversity and some renters and some, property owners. Mostly, I think we have right now is property owners. We want to increase the diversity on the board and the membership in general. So right now the board is 4 people. The bylaws say there can be minimum of 3, maximum of 9. Currently got 4. We're hoping that people will self-nominate themselves. And so you can do that at the link here. The slate of boards will be recommended to nominees by the board on April 30th. Is that going to be on the website, Craig?
Yeah, that's the goal. By the way, I do want to clarify Lochleven goes down to the edge of the lake.
Yeah.
And Wayne Novak has self-nominated and as a board member, and Wayne lives on Lake Washington Boulevard. So I just want to clarify on that there. So
and Wayne, you live at the View at Maidenbower, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Love that you're joining. Love your involvement. Thank you. Craig, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to raise it. And that's a good example of it's important to have someone who represents that part of Bellevue right now. So, and then Robin has also self-nominated herself, and Robin is down on First Avenue, and Larry is a great supporter of her, I see. So, so thank you for your nomination there. So they're the only 2 nominations that have been received so far. And actually, why our bylaws state a minimum of 3, the state law actually says that a board can be constituted with a minimum of 1 board member. So,
And Nicole, just so you know, you have to be 18, so your child is a little early. Yeah, so we're gonna vote on the board at the annual meeting. That's gonna be up for a member vote. Then we're gonna elect officers, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer, you know, sort of the normal drill for that. So, you know, please, if you're interested in, I'll just say to you, probably my personal benefit on being my personal benefit on being in the board is I've made new friends. And, you know, you meet people and you make new friends and you get to know them by working on projects together. And so it's been very rewarding for me to get to know my co-board members. And, you know, if you happen to be, say, a young person and you're going to be living in this neighborhood for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, it's a good way to get to know your neighbors. So let's get some youth on the board too.
Mark, just a comment. You mentioned 1 board member. That is permitted under the Washington State Code, but it's not permitted under our bylaws.
Well, we'll get to the bylaws. We're going to talk about the bylaws in a little bit.
Because our bylaws require three people
Yeah.
as a minimum,
Yeah.
and that overrides the state requirement.
Yeah.
that's correct, Chuck.
Yep.
Thank you.
Totally right. And look at this. Next slide. Bylaws. So we're working on the bylaws, and this has been a bit of a lift for us, to be honest with you. There's a new statute that came effect on January 1st, 2022. And those of you who know that I'm an attorney, I will tell you that I had no idea that this was happening, because there's a lot of laws that get passed this isn't my practice area, so I don't really know much about this, if anything. So we need to update the bylaws. It's in the works. We have an idea that we haven't decided on, but we thought that it might be worth considering that we wait until we have the new directors on the board until we finish the project. So I see Scott's given thumbs up on that. So that was a Mike Hatmacher suggestion. And so it seems like a good one, but we're still working on this. We don't really have anything substantive to show you yet, but you know, when you get the new bylaws, we're trying to make them comply with the statute and also be something that's practical and workable. Fair enough, Craig?
Yeah, I think it's important that we don't have consensus on the board on this here, but the core focus right now is 2 things or 3 things. One is to update our bylaws to be compliant with the state regulations. So for example, we have several areas which say that minimum notice is 7 days, 1 week. The new law states it has to be 10 days. So there's some areas like that we just have to fix. I wouldn't say fix, we have to make sure we're consistent with the new state laws. There's other areas that through the editing process, when you have a lot of people in the kitchen, some things get missed and some word changes. So there's a few things we have to clarify. So there's no ambiguity, excuse me. And the third thing, there are some things that we need to do that we think are very important for sustainability. And one of the key issues, for example, that I mentioned, I'm not sure if Chuck, you brought it up, was that they allow the minimum being 1 board member. And that was actually introduced by the state, and there's a lot of discussion on that. The background was because organizations have ebbs and flow of activities. And so you don't want to force an organization to naturally become out of compliance and defunct because you have low activity. And so that was introduced specifically that area. So that's another example. So these are some of the things here, and you'll see here, and these slides will be available in specific areas in the code that talks about that. Other areas such as electronic minutes, we don't specifically address that. And one member has said, well, you know, our bylaws don't say that we can accept electronic minutes. So we want to make sure there's clarity in those areas. Reducing the number for quorum, for example, to have a meeting. So that's an example of sustainability. You don't want to have the bylaws that are so constricting that forces you to effectively dissolved because you're not in compliance. So that's the key focus right now. And those are the areas that as a board, we had, I believe, general consensus on the March 28th meeting to agree to those changes. So, and the last point is we talk about membership. One of the things that the founding members talked about was to include renters. But we've had other people that want to support. They see our great work. They want to make donations. They live in downtown Bellevue. They live in Anatai. They live in Northtown, and they want to make donations. So being that we are a 501c3, we certainly can accept them, but we want to add a classification of non-residents as non-voting supporters. So those are some of the things just to bring us up to speed. A lot, as Mark, to your earlier point, we've accomplished a great deal. We have to focus on the positive, but we also have to focus on the importance of making sure we don't encumber our bylaws that force us to become out of compliance and defunct. So those are the things that we're talking about right now. Back to you, Mark.
Yeah, and so,
So again, our bylaws need to be relevant to the organization.
absolutely.
And the state law are minimum requirements. They are not defined requirements. They are not what we have to adopt. And if we choose not to adopt them, we can do that.
Again, thanks, Chuck. Again, the whole point that I think we need to focus on is sustainability. We don't want to run into the rabbit hole of what other organizations become, that the bylaws became so problematic that they were out of compliance. So we want to make sure we do everything we can do to make the bylaws as flexible as possible, compliant with the law, to support the organization.
I guess my hand up isn't being seen. Maybe I'm doing.
You're right, Scott. I didn't see it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, not to be a techie. Just two things. What first is a clarification. The way the bylaws are set now, is it that the annual meeting elects members to the board and the board selects its officers? Or it sounded like you were saying we want to get people to run for the offices, and I didn't recently review the bylaws, but I thought it was elect the board members and then the board members select the officers. So that's just a clarification I wanted to get.
You're 100% correct, Scott. The way it works is the board then meets and then elects the officers.
Super. And then another comment Mark made, a couple of them I absolutely applaud. Everything Craig has done. This wouldn't have gotten going without somebody who was very knowledgeable and could get zeroed in and get things going. And you did it at a time when time was of the essence. And there's nothing that's only to be applauded. And we want to keep that sort of expertise. But also as a past president of West Bellevue Community Club, and was president when we got Northeast 5th Street closed, which brought a great tranquility to this neighborhood. In that era, we did have a pretty open board, and took all sorts of input from members, and some of them were idiotic, and we were patient with that. But it allowed a process of making sure that none of the good ideas were overlooked. And we had, then live meetings, we could give and take. Somebody could make a point and somebody could counter, all done very cordially, but it was open. And so unless the state law requires action before to just get in compliance, before there's time to do what I think I was hearing Mark say, it's so I think it's a good idea. I think before we amend the bylaws again, unless there's a strict technical, either you do this now or you don't stay in business. I think the idea of having a mechanism to get input from all the members. I mean, we've grown what, tenfold. You guys have done great recruitment, but you've got a board now of what, 4 members, maybe almost just over half of what you had when you had the 10 votes that approved the first ones, which were necessary to go through. So if we can take a more relaxed approach without running afoul of any state regs, and a mechanism for letting people get their ideas out if they're not at open in-person meetings, then at least, get the ideas out and let there be a little give and take. That seems to me to satisfy a couple of purposes. Number one, we don't let any good ideas get overlooked. And secondly, I think the membership would have would appreciate knowing that they had a chance to give meaningful input. So with that in mind, I again applaud all you guys have done and look forward to the progress you're making.
Yeah, well, thank you, Scott. Appreciate the kind words. So I
Can
love the enthusiasm that we're having for the association. And so it's nice that people want to be involved. It's nice that this matters to people. That said, let's not forget that we are a $25 a year membership organization that schedules pancake dinners and neighborhood walks and occasionally interfaces with the state. So I like to look for the easy button whenever I can. And so I'll just leave it at that. I want to keep this as simple as we can for the board members because we're all volunteers here.
Yeah,
Right,
just,
Greg?
Yes.
Mark, a few things. Just to clarify, we've never had 10 board members. We had the provisions, we had 6. One, so we're at 4. So just to clarify on there. The second thing is by design, we never were intended to be West Bellevue Community Club. We're a totally new organization. And the third thing is it's an iterative process. We have had posted, I think for almost 6 weeks now, opportunities for members to provide us input on the bylaws. So we have had an open process. And, Scott, I know you previously had encouraged a change of the boundaries, which you since rescinded that request. But to be clear, that was something we went through a tremendous amount of debate in the founding of the creation of the organization. It's very much documented in the minutes of previous meetings. So while I know you originally wanted us to revert back to the boundaries that were purportedly to be West Bellevue Community Club, we specifically designed Lochleven to not be that. So, but I do want to point out that it's an iterative process. Another board member on the call, Mike Hatmaker, suggested that we totally reorganize the bylaws in numerical sequences and difference. Not a bad idea, but I do think we have to put it in perspective. We can't boil the ocean. And to Mark's point, is we only have so many cycles. We have so many bigger issues, and we have to focus on the must-dos. So nevertheless, I think it's an iterative process. The board has to have a separate meeting to see what, if anything, is going to be presented for the board for the annual meeting. And whatever is in that meeting, there'll be subsequent and other opportunities to tweak and adjust going forward. But again, we can't boil the ocean, and we have to focus on the must-dos, and so we can move forward, because otherwise it can be very draining and it can be very divisive. So I just want to encourage people to focus on the must-dos and just work forward going forward. So go ahead, Mark, the next slide, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, all right, Craig, right back at you.
So how many people here lived in, were here on 4th of July last year? Raise your hands. Or
On what?
were you here, were you in Lochleven on 4th of July last year? So last year was a very unique thing for the city. And this was actually the genesis of the Lochleven Association being created. Right after July 4th, a few of us got together with the city, because what happened is no other city in the area had fireworks. And so you had this huge influx of people coming into Bellevue for the 4th of July fireworks. Because Bellevue did not have activities during the day, you had everyone coming in starting at like 8:30 or 9 o'clock. So you had traffic jam coming in, twice the number of people normal. And you had basically the city, all the contingency plans broke. Traffic. And so what happened is there were so many crowds on 100th, the only thing the police could do was divert traffic down 5th which directed people onto on 99th. What happened was people were still trying to get to the fireworks. So you had gridlock literally for like 3 hours. Cars could not move, horns were honking, people were getting out of the cars yelling. It was a total mess. So the city formed an advisory committee. Lochleven was the only organization that was part of that other than city staff. Mike and I'm sorry, was there a question?
No, there was a cough.
Oh, Mike Hatmaker and I were on the call on April 5th. And we heard from the police, the fire, all the staff. And initially the city said, well, we're not going to make any changes because we think last year was an outlier. It's not going to happen again. And so I sent a communication back thanking the city, but because of the gridlock to the physical altercations that occurred on the street, because medical vehicles could not travel on 99th, the city came around and changed 180 degrees. They've agreed to 3 things to support Lochleven. First, they're going to make 99th no parking on one side, and they're going to enforce that. So that way vehicles can go up and down, medical vehicles. They're also going to pick up litter. One of the things that happened last year is people coming from the festivities dropped a fair amount of litter on First Street, 99th, as well as Northeast 5th. They are going to take care of that. And the third thing they're going to do is they're going to have spotters. They're not uniformed police officers because of the cost. We're going to have spotters that with radios. They're going to communicate to the police if they see problems occurring. So I think this is a great example of how Lochleven a year ago had no identity, the city. We didn't have an association. The city sat down with us traffic engineers, and the good news is it's a very positive response. And I'm just very, very happy about that. To your point there, Mark, they're considering 98th, but the real problem was everyone turning in and out of 99th last year. So, and the other problem is 99th is considered a corridor with a sidewalk. And so that's where people walk down. And so,
Yeah.
so that's kind of why the focus is on 99th right now.
Yeah, but my thinking on that comment is that if you live on a street or if you know of other streets within Lochleven that were similarly impacted, let us know and we'll put it on the ask list.
Yeah, exactly.
Mike, did you have anything else? You were on that call.
Well, I would just say that you and I were taken aback at first by the city's approach, which, as you say, seemed to be focusing on the very unusual nature of last year. But on the other hand, I was impressed by all the different departments in the city that are involved, and they've had people involved in this event for years and years. I mean, they watch and they have a plan for almost everything that goes on. So yeah, I'm real pleased that they came back and took some actions, because at first it looked like they were maybe not going to take action. But like you just said to Mark, I think any other streets in our area that if we can get more comments, I think the city would be open to do perhaps more, because they definitely reacted to our input.
Yeah, and let me just tell a little personal story. So probably our best family friends is a woman who just got hired as the assistant deputy manager or something like that at City of Bellevue. And I asked her if she'd heard about the Lochleven Community Association, because she heard, for example, I was talking to her about our work on the chimneys, and she's like, as a matter of fact, I have. We heard about the pancake breakfast invitation. It's being discussed.
Oh, that's awesome.
So in a very short amount of time, we've somehow, maybe we're just a big pain in the ass, but we've hit the radar. So
I think it's really positive, and I appreciate the accolades, but it's really been a team effort. Just one last point. One of the other things the city's doing to help mitigate, they are planning. Funding's been reduced this year, so it's not going to be a day-long activities like in the past. It's going to start at 4 or 5 in the afternoon. But one of the things is they're going to have music going on a stage after the fireworks, and the goal is hopefully people will linger around to release this reduce the amount of traffic outflowing that's immediately after the fireworks. They don't know how that's going to work, but that's where they're going to at least have one other group come up and play. So I think they are trying to be really do it. And again, it's just very encouraging how they are listening.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll handle this one, Craig. So here's where we are. When did this thing get formed, by the way, Craig? It's 5 months ago, 6 months ago?
October 6th, I believe, was the date that we actually filed our articles of
Okay.
incorporation.
So we got the, we filed, and it looks like our 501c3 charitable nonprofit has been approved by the IRS, which means that our dues and donations in 2021 are deductible. Maybe that'll help you, maybe it won't. My guess is it won't with the new code, but you never know. If we got any Microsofties, we're very much open and receptive to matching. So there's 55 paying households. We got
56?
80. Wait, 56.
Yay.
Aaron and Sheila, welcome. Yeah, so we got 81 members of the Nextdoor group. So we use Nextdoor as our sort of private social media. It's you gotta live within Lochleven, and Craig and I will admit you if you pass the test and know the password. We got a bunch of signs, 12 of them. We have 8 that have been adopted by LCA members. So we are looking for some sign parents to take some signs and sort of spread that out around the neighborhood. We need placement on 94th, 95th, and 96th. Got a little bit of money, $2,200 roughly in the bank. And the big focus right now, I think, is still recruitment and getting the words out. Anything you want to add, Craig?
I think I'm glad you mentioned we should update the slide to say matching funds. So we're now qualified for that. That was an oversight. I'm glad you pointed out. The other things that we're also eligible for free software or highly discounted software. So we applied, just to let you know, April 15th was, I'm sorry, February 15th. Normally we would have been approved right within 48 to 72 hours, but the IRS has been really backlogged. So, but the good news is we did get the formal approval earlier this week. So there's lots of advantages for us as an organization, not only on discounts and free software, free services, reduced fees for PayPal, the list goes on, and the matching funds and potential for grants as well that we could apply for neighborhood improvements. So we haven't explored those, but again, that's all good positive there. I see that Scott has a question.
Else? I'm sorry. Thanks, Craig. I'm not seeing the screen. So Scott,
I haven't been in on the discussion about renters versus owners, and I like to have all ideas. My knee jerk is that because we'll be taking actions that affect the our properties, my sense of it is we probably ought to limit voting members to owners rather than renters, but let renters in for all the social. Now, I apologize if you've had deep discussions on that, but that's my knee jerk on recruitment.
Okay, well, Scott, I'm glad that actually was a very deliberate discussion and a pivot, for example, from West Bellevue that excluded renters. And we made a very deliberate decision on the strategy of forming LCA to include renters. And quite frankly, we feel that renters, if they want to join, we want them to be part of the conversation and build community. And that also meant, and the bylaws, if you look at the first page, Mark spent a lot of time on definitions. We also allow property owners, for example, if you were a landlord, you could also be a voter on there. So we went through a tremendous amount of discussion, and the whole point was to be inclusive and to recognize how the demographics have changed in our community. So that was something that was very important to the founders. And so that was a deliberate conversation. So right now, I'm not aware of any renters, but we don't want to exclude them or discriminate against them.
Well, thank you. That's useful. Just as far as anything done in the early days to get formed, and I guess, mistaken on board members, maybe there were 10 members voting on the initial bylaws. I think you guys, with your great recruitment, have gotten us up to close 10 times that, maybe 8 to 10 times. So that may change the profile of the membership. So I appreciate any consideration being given to not treating all of the issues that were decided to get this going as fixed. Again, your comments about maybe getting things out to the membership for discussion, I think that'll be helpful. But so it sounds like there could be a renter could be a voting member, and that could give 2 votes to a property. So owners would, if the owner can also be, and so that would mean that those owners who are renting out their properties could potentially double their influence.
Yeah, we went through that. And by the way, Scott, we sat down with the city on that issue about being inclusive, concerns about discrimination on there as an association, as a 501c3, so the legal implications of that. And we also looked at other associations, what we're doing. And again, the bottom line came down to, and there was about 20 members that formed on there, the founding members. It was, we want to be inclusive, and Lochleven has changed a lot in the past decade. And certainly since your prior club was formed 30, 40 years ago, lots changed. So the demographics, and I think we need to be sensitive to that. So, but those are really questions, I think, more about the bylaws. And certainly you can if you want to suggest a change on that and see if there's other people that support that. But those are examples of things that we would say going forward. But I feel very comfortable. I would feel very disappointed, not to mention the legal implications, for us to exclude renters and consider them a second class. I think that would be the absolute wrong thing for us to do as an organization. But that's just my personal view.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. And I appreciate that you'd be open, given the number of new members you've gotten, hopefully many more after Pancake Breakfast, that there'll always be an openness to the ideas of the profile of the membership as it exists when an issue comes up. But again, I applaud those 10 that voted on the bylaws and got them going.
Okay. Let's go to the next one. So, committees. So the bylaws are always going to provide for the formation of committees. And so far, our main committee has been Craig. and we need help. And for us to exist long-term, we're going to need more involvement than just the board. And we're going to need more involvement than just Craig. And so Craig's being very nice and is being very humble, but Craig's really done a lot of work. And I really appreciate all the work that he's done. So here are some ideas for committees. A LCA Strategic Committee, Planning Committee. So a committee to figure out what committees we might want to have. A summer event planning committee. I will tell you that if we don't have a summer event planning committee, there's not going to be a summer event. So, let's get other people to do this. Younger families and youth involvement. It would be great to have some young people involved. And when I look at the diversity of the community, I think that we're going to broaden the scope of our membership diversity if we get some of the kids involved, because the kids will bring their parents along. Annual Pancake Breakfast, 4th of July Planning Committee. Andrea, perhaps you know a little something about emergency preparedness. Maybe you can help out on a committee with that. One thing that I remember when I was a kid, I was in the Boy Scouts, and every year we would do a walk and litter pickup. So that would be sort of an easy way to involve the children and do something positive for the neighborhood. And so not going to put anyone under pressure here, but we need some volunteers and we need some help on leading committees. So leading and forming committees. So if there's a committee that you guys want to form, my philosophy is that the board is here to serve. And if there's something you guys want to do, let's hear it. And so if there's something that's of interest to you that you want to lead, let us know. Well, don't even let us know. Step forward. You got it.
Yeah, I think to that point, Mark, it's not just lob emails, do this, change this. We need you to get involved and be part of the process, not just putting more work on the board. And honestly, Robin, you've been great. You've been a great example of someone say, hey, I have an idea and I'm willing to help. And thank you so much. And Jeff Jorgensen, he's not on the call right now. So that's where we need more of that can do. So I encourage that. We've accomplished a great deal. I do want to mention, by the way, just kind of circle back. So we've been talking about a block party. About 3 months ago, we had a neighbor volunteer their property for that, Steve Heller on 99th. At the last meeting, someone said, hey, why don't we go do Clyde Beach Park? So I took that on my shoulders. I shouldn't have done that. I should have told the person, that's a good example that I didn't do a good job. You go research that.
Still
Well,
plenty.
Clyde Beach Parks, we have to pay to do that. You have to pay per person and you can't have a barbecue there. So, but that's where you need someone is rather than just throw ideas, be part of the solution and roll up your sleeves, contact the city and help us. We can't do everything, but so we're reverting back for the, one or two options of the, block party type event, either on 99th or one area that Mark and I have also discussed is on 97th, where it's still the construction is at a not a standstill on the dead end street there. So we're looking at those things, but we need someone who's going to take charge and really drive that stuff. So.
Yeah.
In that case, I'll volunteer the renters. The more you can get in, the better.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't understand that, Scott.
It's a point in favor of having more members. Your expansion to renters may allow you to attract a few people that don't know the neighborhood yet, so we might get some good ones that way. What about that lot, that vacant lot, city lot on 99th? Is it available for community functions?
Yeah, so we've pursued that. So let me kind of, we aren't expanding. The bylaws allow renters, so we're not making any change on that. So that's been since October, based on articles of incorporation, our bylaws allow renters. I just want to clarify that. So it's not a change. The property you're talking on 99, the old pump property, the city says we could use that. It's not as big as the property across the street. It doesn't have water or power adjacent to it. So the advantage of the Steve Heller's property across the street has some other, especially like if you want to have like a water balloon toss or some other things there. But if people really felt compelling, we technically have to get a permit from the city for that property to do that. And that's just more overhead for us to worry about, honestly.
Yeah. And we've thought about, but we haven't come up with a good idea on how to make, if there's going to be a summer block party, because people step forward and form a summer block party committee. We'd like, if there's a way to put it somewhere further towards the lake so that it's not all up here, seems like a good idea, but we'll let the committee decide.
Yeah, and that was the point that we looked into. Technically, Clyde Beach Park and Maidenbower, you cannot reserve. The city would make an exception for us to Clyde Hill Park, but we have to pay for it, and we have to limit parking, and we have to make sure parking's available for accessible for other people. So we can't do that, and we can't have an open fire for a barbecue. So that's why neither one of the beach properties are viable, or as viable as we like. And we don't want to have to be paying the fees for the city to reserve it.
Yeah. I think we're getting close to the end here. Craig, handle this one too, please.
So, Bellevue is going through a lot of changes. For those of you who are on a previous call, there's a new comprehensive plan in development. Brooke Broad is driving that process. She will be at the April 23rd breakfast meeting. But there's also a conference coming up the city holds every 2 years. It's really targeted to the leadership of the organizations, but anyone is available to attend. They have a broad selection of programs out there. It's a great way to get involved with the city. I encourage people to consider that. There's other programs as well. There's something called Bellevue Essentials. I'm a graduate of that program, and that's a great way of getting involved and understand the current landscape of the city and how things work. And that, quite frankly, has been the foundation of what has helped us to move so quickly with Lochleven is understanding that. So it's a great way to get involved and connect with other people. So encourage you to do that. And if you want to learn more on at our pancake breakfast, Brooke, who's leading this up, will be talking about it.
Yeah. So it looks like in the chat that we have an emergency preparedness public safety committee being formed.
Larry's gonna start it.
I didn't know it. Robin and Larry and Andrea. So
That's Andrea, that's
I
right.
turned in a My Bellevue thing and one of the city about the semi truck that was blocking Fifth for like a week. And his email was like frequent complainer. So I didn't know if he was referring to me or the property. But now I can put, I'm from the public safety committee. I get faster response.
That's going to give you some cred.
Well, just to let you know that Andrea is on the board of CERT, which is a community emergency response team, which I'm also a member of and trained, not to the level of Andrea. So that's all about emergency responsiveness for disasters in the community, major problems and stuff there. So that's something that we really want to push forward to get block captains. We just haven't had, quite frankly, the cycles to really take it to this next level because we've been, quite frankly, dealing with a lot of the block and tackling of creating the organization, dealing with the pressing issues of zoning changes. And so while a lot of ideas get brought forth, we have to focus, and we are volunteers. And, Scott, I appreciate all your ideas, but sometimes it's just, we got to get done the things that are pressing, the zoning changes. And we're very effective in getting that zoning shut down. We were very effective in shaping the dad-do discussion. So certain things that we're doing. And so I think the CERT or the emergency readiness, I think, is a really important thing. And I wish we had done more with when we had the snow to help some people shovel out if they're housebound. We should be doing more of that type of stuff to help our community, I think.
Yeah, that's a biggie. It's a good one.
Yeah. I don't have there's no question that the urgent things need to be dealt with. I would take issue with your arguments, what it is, that things were, that everything to be known about every possible future issue, I exaggerate, was done in that first meeting. Suffice it to say, it got you off the ground. You made a great defense to chimneys. It's super. I would respectfully disagree with the idea that the only look forward is to verify everything that the 10 voting members for the first bylaws did. So just that will be my position, because we have an expanded membership, and I hope the organization will be receptive to other ideas. Board doesn't have to accept them, but you're going to have a new board soon. Let that board make that decision.
Yeah, good comment. All right. So we are going to follow the City of Bellevue's rule that if anybody has anything new that they want to bring up, they can, of course, do so. Give me a second while I get something to write on. So this is the opportunity to, if there's anything that anybody wants to bring up, anything that we haven't discussed. Who wants, anybody got anything?
I asked, where do we have a list of members that is available to other members? And if so, where do we find that?
There is a spreadsheet, and I'm hesitating because I know that there's something in the new statute that talks about maintaining certain controls over the member list. And so there is a member list. we got to look at the statute to figure out what we can do with it.
So one of the things, as the membership application states, is we do not share the membership list with members because we don't want to be spamming and different things of that nature. I think the best way of communicating is Lochleven on the next door list is a great, very vibrant area. I encourage people to consider that on there, but based on our interpretation of the statute and based on my background in privacy and protection, that we aren't sharing that list. We also don't want people to get spammed, and people have specifically asked and told us not to share their information. So for ease of management, we're not sharing that with any member whatsoever.
Would there be a distinction to be made between just having their names, so we'll know who's already in and who not to recruit, as opposed to contact information?
That can be something I'd say, well, I'll punt to the new board. I'm not going to take that on. I don't have the cycles to look at the legalities of that and to review that.
Mhm. Mhm.
I see Mark's got his legal pad going. How quaint writing.
Well, we record these meetings and then we post them on the website and on a YouTube channel as the minutes. So again, we're trying to keep this easy. Anybody else have anything? Maybe Craig, if you have others, you can go again.
No, I'm actually, Scott keeps on bringing up this point about 10 members and I'm trying to find that. I don't think that's correct in the number of founding members. And I don't know your basis of that, Scott, but I
Let me
do.
clarify. I saw that there were, I think, 10 members on the vote. It was in minutes that you allowed me to access. I didn't review them recently, but I think you had 10 members in a membership meeting voting on the Rush First bylaws. That's all I was saying. If you guys, what's our nose count now? Are we at 80 or 100? How many members now?
56.
56 paying households,
How many?
56,
56. Oh, okay.
right.
So
81 is the number of people that have joined the Nextdoor group. And that can be, so for example, if Larry and Robin were to join, they would be 2, but that's not voting. That is limited to people that were able to, with a high degree of confidence, verify that they live within Lochleven. I say high degree because they're self-asserting their address. I'm not asking for identification, nor do I want that, honestly. So we have a good idea they are members.
thank you. That's helpful. Thank you.
And there is a document, I believe it's on the site, that lists the founding members that work through all the stuff there. So I will find that, and Mark, I will post that out for.
But I think that if you want to talk to the members, they're on the Nextdoor page.
And is that something that there's a hall monitor for, or can we say anything without having the discussion cut off?
Well, so there are certain rules for Nextdoor. Again, courteous things. It's not, so it is monitored. So for example, it's not a place to sell things. It's not a place to get in public discourse. And it's not to rant and such in there. So it is monitored in that respect there.
Good, good.
Thank you. It's monitored by them, by Nextdoor. It's not monitored by us.
That's not totally correct. As the moderator, I do moderate that. I've not had an issue up to date. I have had some people that have tried to post things for sale and we've taken those off. So
well,
I got shut down for posting pictures of condominium and apartment signs asking for members to join. So
Really?
So what happened is Mark got cited as someone said they were spamming. I also happen to be a content moderator for Nextdoor. You weren't shut down, but it was a concern that people complained that you were spamming on there and that it was commercial. People didn't really understand.
Craig got me out of jail.
Yeah.
Bless your brother. Bless your brother.
that sounds like a good way. I had the impression I posted kind of an argument out there on something, and you, Craig, you made a response that I didn't think was entirely accurate or on point, but then you said this discussion is closed or something like that, and I thought, well, maybe I stepped across the line, but that's helpful to know. Thank you.
So Scott, what you did is it's very specific. It says send comments to the board alias. And rather get in there. But to clarify the founding members, by the way, I did find the source document. There was 18 individual paying members that were part of the founding
Wow.
part of Lochleven on there. So it's not 10. So it is.
No, I was saying, I thought your minute said 10 voted on the bylaws.
Saying that the form, we had several meetings, Scott. We're already past the 3 minutes. Last thing I want to say, several people got together. There was 18 individual people that worked together in a collaborative process to bring forth the bylaws that were then subsequently voted. I don't know the number of people, but it was
It
18
was 10.
individual paying members.
Thanks for the confirmation.
Going once.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sort of if it counts as new business or an issue. Similar to Craig's egress concern about 99th around the 4th. I just mentioned the semi-truck trailer that was parked on 5th for a week. And occasionally there's construction or things on some of the side streets that block road access because people are parked on both sides of things. I just was curious if anyone else has feelings about this or if I'm the only one that's worried about egress.
So when you say egress, can you be a little more specific, Andrea? I know
I'm
what,
meaning a safe passage. What really drives me crazy about people parking in fire lanes and all those things is emergency vehicle traffic, right?
Okay.
That when people are parked on both sides of the street, it's difficult for single passenger vehicles to safely move, which essentially means delivery trucks, fire trucks, ambulances couldn't and would have to go down another street.
okay, so we do have a conduit with the police department. I wasn't aware of that. And certainly can give you on there. They've been very responsive. There is the minimum of 20 feet, I think, that has to have access for a fire truck. I don't know the exact statute on that. But they have been responsive. Landon Barnwell is our current sector chief, I believe his name is. And he has been very, very responsive when we've had issues. So did you call the police department?
I actually just put in my Bellevue request with a photo with it, but what their usual response is that when they show up, then they're gone.
Yeah.
And kind of missing the point that it could be an ongoing issue during certain times of the day.
And was this related to construction on the corner of 5th and 97th or 98th, that area?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the contact, by the way, is Landon Barnwell. He's our sector chief, so to speak, the right term. But that actually comes down to code compliance, I believe, in that area. But I'm sorry to be scratching my head in there. But what happens, quite frankly, contractors don't share the same concerns we have, and they park their very big F-250 or huge pickup trucks that are overlapping, and like you said, it's very constricted. So
I noticed that too, Andrea, and I would be in favor of having only parking in one side of the street.
Yeah, because we just have a lot more people walking, biking, folks in strollers, and people coming around corners. It just seems a little more hazardous lately.
So there is a process on that where you need to have a vote of all the people on the street. At one point, for example, on 99th, it used to be parking on one side of the street. Somehow it got changed to both sides. They have told us if we want to get it back to one side, we'd have to get a vote of all the people. And by the way, this gets back to Scott's point. It's not only owners, it's renters. It's both. It's people that are residents of the street. They all get to vote on that. And so if that's an issue on your street there, I can kind of connect you the dots on there. I can't do that for you, but it's every resident on the property that gets to vote on that. Same thing for streetlights. You have to get everyone within 100 feet to get a new streetlight, and independent of residents or renters. So, or owners or residents, I should say. Hopefully that helps. Sorry.
Yeah, but great idea for the Emergency Preparedness Public Safety Committee.
Yeah.
Seriously, it would really improve the neighborhood, in my opinion, to have only parking on one side of the street. And if that's something that a committee could form and do, it would be a great enhancement to the neighborhood.
Mhm.
Thank you, Andrea. Anybody else? All right. Well, let's call the meeting. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate everybody's enthusiasm and involvement. We're just getting started. We're going to make some mistakes. We're going to fix the mistakes, but it's good to have so many people join us on this second Tuesday of April. So with that, I'm going to shut down the meeting.
Okay, good job, Mark.
Mark,
Thank
thanks,
you.
everybody.
Okay, bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Good job. Nice to see
Bye.
your faces, everybody.
See you guys.
Bye. Welcome,
Bye.
Sheila.
Start working on your pancake appetite.
Thank you.
Go.
Bye.
All right. It's just me and you, Mike. Wait, no, it's not.
Hey, well, I don't know.
Robin's on too. Hi, Robin.
Gone.
Okay.
He's
Good to
gone.
see you.
Okay, good job.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to sign off. We'll talk later.
Okay, see you. Yep. I've got to find my X here. Leave meeting.